Hey, welcome back to the Be That Create That social channel. Trienne here, your high performance coach. And I'm actually really excited. It's so funny. We start to have these conversations before we hit record or before we hit live. And it always turns into, hold on, wait, let me make sure that I hit record. So thank you for being a part of this social channel. I'm going to bring on my next guest for our channel, and she's going to share some great tips with you. I can tell already that you are going to vibe really great with our community. So I'm going to bring on Payton. Hello.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you more today.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you as well, especially after so we actually met through a Facebook community that was going through adding people for our podcast and interviewing in different podcasts, which I love how that community has been able to really introduce me to some amazing people to share with the community. But then we connected through Instagram, and I went down the scroll hole today on your Instagram, I have to tell you.
That's good. Hey, that's a good compliment.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, everything. I was like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. And then, so love having you on for our interview series as well. Why don't you just kind of share with our community what it is that you love about what you do? What are you doing to make an impact out there? And let's just dive right in.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Payton. I'm a mom of two. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old that I stay home with. So hopefully you do not hear them screaming at any point in the background. But I transitioned into coaching and into the online space from financial services a couple years ago. And what happened was I was doing all this own work, right? I was doing all this work on my own because being in the finance space, like you're not going to go to someone's home and tell them that they need to get their budget in line when like you're not doing that yourself, right? That's a huge integrity issue. So I was doing all this work around why I felt so crappy about money. I'm like, why is it like I wasn't poor. I grew up in a normal household. Like, why do I have all of this resistance and like trauma around money? So I started doing that work and I started noticing that the people I was serving in the financial space were struggling with the same thing, right? It wasn't a me issue. It was a society issue. And I started noticing, especially women in my same position, moms, women who wanted to make their business work, women who wanted to be home with their kids but still make money, they were struggling with a lot of the same things. Like, how do I adequately price my services? People are telling me charge my worth. I have no idea what that means. And I started noticing the unworthiness that they felt around being paid, around looking at their finances, just so much avoidance going on. So that's when I kind of dipped my toe into the online space. And, then you have like endless conversations at your disposal, right? So I started having these conversations, and my goal originally was to come online and start doing my financial literacy services to stay-at-home moms and to women who were in business and in the same position as I was. And as this need kind of made itself known, that's when I started transitioning into the mindset portion. And it all just kind of unfolded really nicely because I'm naturally an empath. I've always been really interested in psychology and the brain and emotions and, what makes us who we are as people. So it all just kind of unfolded really nicely. And I started coaching on money mindset, right? And that is where I landed. And so now I have my own podcast, and, my mission and my goal is to just completely change the conversations that we're having about money, because the kind of conversations that we're having those are building the beliefs, of our children, of younger people, of other people who are new to business. And so if we can change that conversation and start speaking really consciously about money, just like the conversation about parenting has turned really conscious, I think the same thing needs to happen with money. That conversation needs to turn in a more conscious way so that we can really understand that money is not just, money is just money. Money is just a piece of paper. right? It's
Yeah,
all the
I have
baggage.
a little sticky note on my thing that says money's just energy. It's an exchange for your value. I mean,
Yes,
it's a flow, right?
yes, absolutely. And I find that a lot of people are mad at money, and
Mhm.
money is not the issue. It's a deflection. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me. That's a little bit about what I'm here to do, and it sounds like a really big feat every time that I say it out loud, but I'm still doing it.
Right. One person at a time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So a couple things that, you said that I feel like is going to not only resonate with the community, but I mean, it's hard for people to talk about is when you said a resistance or an avoidance.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you feel like needs to be that biggest resistance, not only in talking about money, but in the process people go through when it has to do with money?
I think a lot of the avoidance comes into play when people feel like they're not qualified.
Mm.
Regardless of everything that they learn about money, regardless of all the tools they have at their disposal, something inside of them says, like, no, I'm not worthy of more. I am not qualified to manage this money. And a lot of times for women, especially if we're married, married with kids, that comes into play too. People
Mhm.
start to feel like as women that we should take the role and give it to our husbands, that we should give that financial power back to them because that's the way we've been taught for so long. And I see that a lot. I see that a lot with avoidance is people are just kind of hoping that someone else figures it out, or hoping that their husband will take care of it and that they don't have to deal with it. And so they just kind of push it down, and turn a blind eye to what's in their bank account or to managing their business numbers or to knowing their numbers.
Mhm. I had a coach once that said, okay, we're going to get in relationship with your numbers.
Mhm.
So it wasn't that they were right, wrong, or indifferent. It was just know what you're doing,
Mhm.
and I've also had a mentor before that said, hope is not a business plan. And that makes me think of budgeting. You set your budget at the beginning of the month and then you're like hoping that it all works out. Where
Mhm.
no, we have to really get in relationship with where it's going, why it's going there, is that matching our intentions?
Yeah.
And I feel like, share with us a little bit about the mind over money method that you
Mhm.
teach. How does that start and what are your clients or people that go through that process get from you?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I feel like there's a real division in the online space and in people who are talking about money.
Mhm.
Like you said, there's just this like hope factor.
Mhm.
So there's everyone out there who's like, I'm just going to hope that it all works out. And then there's the other people who are like, you have to eat beans and rice. Like, you have to be a budget Nazi. Like, you have to be on top of your shit. Sorry, I hope I can cuss here.
Whatever. We're
Whatever.
open community. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
So I feel like there's this division. So what I like to say is you have to try and trust. So,
Mhm.
like, it's a two-part system when you're trying to have a successful business or manifest money or increase your income, whatever the goal is. You really have to put in all of your effort. You have to try, but you also have to trust that everything is going to work out. So, the mind over money method is a little bit based on that. It's a little bit based on like universal law and becoming an energetic match, but it's also based on, scientific fact, like the way that our brain works, the way that our nervous system works. And the key to mind over money and the whole thing that it's based on is emotional regulation.
Mhm.
Because we don't realize, like I said, people are blaming money. People have put the blame on money itself. And that's not what's to blame, right? It's all of our experiences around money, then we're recreating those same experiences. So the mind over money method is based on taking those experiences, uncovering them, identifying them, and then reframing your beliefs, but also learning that you might always feel scarcity. You might always feel stress around money in some way, shape, or form. And I think a lot of people out there are selling like a magic pill. Like, you can be forever, abundant. And, no slight to anyone who's doing anything in the online space, but in my own experience, it doesn't ever completely just go away. I've been doing money mindset work consistently on a daily, if not weekly basis for 4 years now. And it never just goes away. Like, even after you have the new house, even after you have the new car, even after you're in a better financial situation, those old patterns still resurface. So if you can learn how to navigate those instead of just shoving them down and hoping that they go away when you make more money, if you can navigate that and regulate yourself through those feelings of scarcity, then you can really make decisions from a different place, right? Because when we run our business out of scarcity, a lot of things happen. It influences our pricing, it influences our boundaries, it influences, the way that we show up. And if you can, like I said, navigate that to make a decision from a place where you want your business to be, not based off of where you're at now, then that really allows for you to make shifts really, really quickly and hit goals really quickly.
Yeah, like, how do you go from where you're at right now to where you want to be? Isn't just hoping that that's going to happen. And it's interesting that you said manifesting, because some people, when they think of manifesting, they're like, well, I'm just going to put it on a vision board, or I'm just going to think about it and it's going to happen. And I love that you throw in, oh no, friends, we have to take some action. There is actionable pieces that are part of this process. And for you, I know one of the things that you shared is you said, I work on this every day. Same thing for me for, personal development and my leadership coaching. So what would you say is like one thing that you do every day that really helps you with your money mindset?
So I try to meditate every day, and I'm not like, sitting on a pillow in the corner with, with like my candles lit and stuff. I really just try to check in with myself every single day. And a lot of times it's difficult because I have, like I said, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old that are home with me. And so I really just have to utilize the time that I'm given to do what I can. So if that means journaling, great, if I have time for that. If that means checking in on one of my favorite books and, listening to something inspiring, great. But most of the time that just means checking in with myself at nap time. The girls are laying down and I'm laying down, and just closing your eyes and getting quiet and saying, where do I really want my day to go? Because if your day is driven by scarcity, you will know at the end of the day. You will lay down and you will say, oh my God, my main goal was to finish this, this, and this. And instead I, doom scrolled on my phone for an hour. I revived an old business. I decided to change my content strategy all of a sudden. It's when you start making those decisions out of scarcity, that's when you feel like you're really like bouncing around. You're everywhere in your business, and the bright, shiny object syndrome, and so you'll know.
I'm feeling called out here. I'm feeling called out.
Yeah, you'll know at the end of the day if you've been feeling scarcity, because when you are running your business out of a place of abundance, that doesn't necessarily mean you lay down at the end of the day and say, wow, I made $5,000 today. I'm so abundant. That means that you lay down and you said, okay, I made decisions that are reflective of where I'm going. I stuck with what I said I was going to do. I kept promises to myself. I showed up for myself in a way that I said I was going to. And I stuck to my strategy. That's one of the hardest things, especially as online entrepreneurs. God, that was so hard for me at the beginning, like sticking to something, because every time you open your phone, there's something new. There's someone else that is telling you, this is what changed my business. And I think we can get a little caught up in that. If we don't have that trust built with money, I think we can get really caught up in that, because we're always looking for how we're going to make it work, and there's not one magic strategy that's going to make it work for everybody. It's really just sticking with it and working on your mindset. at the
Well,
same
I think we have to remember that who knows best? We know best. If we just listen to our intuition, listen to our gut, really pay attention to the patterns that are happening. What worked, what didn't? Okay, let's stick with the stuff that worked for just a little bit longer, and see where we can take this. And the other thing that you shared, you said, did I say I was going to do something and then did I do it? Did I stick with it? We create these habits. Being a high performance coach, we talk about habits quite a lot. And one of the things that we talk about is like that snooze button, just let alone the snooze button, right? If you hit it one time, you've already started your day by lying to yourself. I don't need to get up at 5 o'clock because I can get up 20 minutes from now. I can get up 40 minutes from now.
Yeah.
Well, you started your day with telling yourself that you don't need to do what you just said you need to do.
Yep.
And it can be the same way with our money.
Yeah. And I think that's really profound, because a lot of times people will tell you, you need to get up early, to have a successful business. And it's like, it's not actually about getting up early. It's about, did you keep that promise to yourself? What kind of precedent did you set for your day and being the leader of your day?
Mm-hmm. And we talk about morning routine quite a lot. I have a 21-day program called Morning Rush that we've done a number of times. It's one of our favorite programs. And in that, I say, okay, I'm going to help you create your own morning routine. However, if you need to take the word morning out of it and you just pick 4 solid things that you do every day that is going to move you forward, and you stick to that shit, you will see so much, action moving forward, and so many of those things that you wanted to happen coming into your life. And it's basically you just taking the opportunity to say you're going to do something, commit to doing it, and do it. So you're proving to yourself over and over habitually that you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah. And build that trust within yourself. And that's, for me, it's crazy how everything is also intertwined, because when you're building the trust within yourself, like you're building the trust within yourself that you're going to create financial independence. It can be brought back to money just like anything else.
Right. Where do you feel like your vision is taking you? Before we got on this, we talked a little bit about a networking group that you're working with. Be that, create that. Actually, the title for me came from, I was listening to a podcast and a lady was saying, like, if you don't have something in your area, create that. If you want to be a certain type of person, whether it's in the community or it's in your job or it's a certain kind of parent, certain kind of relationship, then just be that. And eventually it's going to come into that fruition for you. So you sharing about the network group kind of reminded me of that. If it's not there, create it, right? So why don't you share with our group how you started that, what that looks like for you, and maybe where your vision's taking you for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to start a networking group about a year and a half ago. And then I had my second daughter and it all just kind of like went up in the air and excuse me, it was just too much at once. So circle back to a year later, I actually came across a post in the Goal Digger podcast group of someone who was looking for chapter directors in their area for networking groups. So we got together and I ended up starting a chapter in my town. It's called Business and Bubbly. So someone else founded it. And then we're kind of branching off across the nation. And so it really kind of felt like, I can either circle back and do this thing on my own, or I can link arms with all these other people who are already doing it. And it kind of felt like getting in on the ground floor of something really great. So I went for it. And it's been a great way to get my name out there and get what I do out there, because a lot of times people don't really know, you say money mindset mentor or money mindset coach and they're like, I don't know what that is. Like people aren't even aware, even my husband, I talk about it all the time. He still stands by his statement that there's no market for that.
That's crazy to me. Crazy. Because people are becoming more and more aware of like the importance of our mindset. I feel like on a daily basis, like we're inundated with why it's important at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that all just depends on what space you're in. Like he has a 9 to 5. And then he's also a real estate agent. So he's in a completely different world than I am on a daily basis. All I have to do is open my Instagram and I'm seeing self-development. I'm seeing all these inspirational things. And I think that if you're not in the self-development space and you're just in like the space of a service provider, you really have to seek that out, and I think putting it right in front of you, like following those accounts or like curating your feed essentially on Instagram, I think that's so important because you have the ability to change that conversation. You want to stick with the conversation that you're having on Facebook every day or in your own head, or do you want to open up, a different conversation by curating what you're putting in front of you on a daily basis? So
yeah. And I think with those social feeds, this is like the number one. I mean, even when it comes to like the parenting and my children and things like that, I think to myself, okay, garbage in, garbage out. Absolutely. What are they listening to? What are they watching? What are they eating? What are their friends saying? Whatever. But I think, we do this in Morning Rush is look at what you are being inundated with every day. And guess what? You have the ability to click block or delete. You can change that. You can go seek people out. You can add them to your feed. You can follow their pages, what have you. Absolutely. And it's, no more, I feel like, are we in this area of life is happening to me. It truly is happening for you if you look at it in that way.
Yeah.
So
it's a choice.
when
people don't want to face that because they're self-sabotaging.
Absolutely. And they don't even know what self-sabotage means quite yet. And then you start to give them examples and they're like, oh my God, I do that. Oh my gosh, I do that. Yeah.
Mind blown.
So how did you start really getting yourself into more of that personal and professional development? Like where did yours start?
So for me, it started with money, and I actually have a whole podcast episode on that. Like, I'm super into self-development now and so many other areas of self-development, but it really all stemmed from money. I started doing the money mindset work. So I started listening to books, podcasts. I started reading and, just like I said, putting that stuff in front of me about money. And I did a lot of thought work, journaling, things on my own to expose my own beliefs. And at some point I was like, okay, wow, this really applies to anything. How I feel about social media is inundated by my own beliefs. How I feel about parenting, how I feel about money, how I feel about business, everything is driven by my own thoughts and feelings. So once I started realizing that, that's when I really started dipping into self-development as a whole and just really got, super obsessed with it, honestly.
I would agree. My sister one time, I had like a 30-minute commute at the time. And my sister, I was in a dark place. It was after I had my second child and I just was not handling life and stuff and things well. Right. So she says, well, have you ever thought about listening to podcasts? And I'm like, I don't even know what a podcast is. Yeah. This is 2015. I have no idea what's going on. And so she sends me a couple and I'm like, well, where do you get this? And she said, they're free on your phone. You just have to click this little app.
And you're like, what?
Yeah. So I clicked the app and my first one that I started listening to was Lori Harder's Earn Your Happy. And man, I was hooked from then on out. I listened to him while I was gardening. I listened while I'm in the shower. I listened like every moment that I could. I was like, give me all the good stuff because it started to flood out some of those negative thoughts. And I could not believe the power of what was coming in. And then I started kind of spewing the things I was hearing. And it was almost at first I was like, oh my gosh, did I just say that?
Yep. Yeah, it really is kind of like surreal when you first start saying things. And I think something that stops a lot of people is they get to that point, where we both did, where we start realizing that we are, like you said, spewing these things back out. What comes in, what goes in, comes back out. And I think what stops a lot of people is that doesn't feel authentic. Their brain throws up the red flags and they're like, whoa, did you just say that? You're not that person. You're the broke person. You're the broke person. Or you're this or you're that, and that feeling of their identity comes creeping back up and they're like, okay, I'm not this person. So they stopped, and in fact, that's normal. We all feel that.
I love that you bring that up, because you're right. The first thing you think of is like, well, who am I? Who am I to talk about that? Who am I to have this conversation? And it's like, you obviously are a person who's interested in that, and follow that, give yourself that. All right. So I have had you on hot seat now for 25 minutes. And I really appreciate and want to be respectful of your time. At the end of these, I always give you guys an opportunity. If you can think of anything that you want to ask me, you're welcome to. And while you're thinking of that, again, I just want to thank you and respect you for the amount of time and the work that you're doing. That is so important.
Thank you.
Mindset is what I would call the gateway into really creating and designing that life with intention. And, we talk a ton about leadership, and it comes from that decision of like, I want better for myself, for my family, for my work environment, whatever it is. So you definitely brought some things to light today, and I'm excited to share that with the community. So
yeah, great. Thank you for having me. I really hope that, someone listens to this and they have that moment where they're like, damn, that's me, mind blown. That's my hope for everything that I interview on. If I could just give somebody that aha moment that I had, that's my goal.
So where is the best place for people to follow you or to, absorb some of your content?
So I usually hang out on Instagram. You can find me at Payton Moran with 2 underscores afterwards, because 1 was already taken. So that is where you can pretty much find all my links, everything that I promo. I have a masterclass coming up. I'm running a summit in late July. So I've got lots of good things happening. And that's the best way to find me. And then also, of course, on Apple or Spotify, you can listen to the Wired for Wealth podcast.
Awesome. I love that so much. All right. Do you have any questions for me?
Honestly, I don't think I do. I think that we were so much on the same wavelength during this. I feel like I know you so well already.
I feel that way when I talk to a lot of people through these, because, again, what you put out is what you attract. So I feel like I get a lot of energy from these conversations because it's very like-minded. And I love to learn. So if I didn't know something that the person already shared, or I didn't know as much about it, which is usually what happens, I'm like absorbing. I almost kind of forget that we're on the channel, because I'm like, just tell me all your stuff and things. So smart.
I do the same thing. Go down a wormhole.
Yes. All right. Well, you have a wonderful day. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us as part of the channel. And go and follow Payton, because everybody deserves to be led well. And when you change that money mindset, you will change your life. You guys have a great day. Hey guys, Trienne here, back again. Just a thank you to being part of our podcast. We are loving all the reviews that we're getting, the messages that we're getting that are showing that the content is exactly what you need to be showing up as your authentic leadership self and for your teams and your business. Remember, we are also over on Facebook in the Female Leader Headquarters, and you can join us over there to continue the conversation about how we can lead our teams and start by leading ourselves. We'd love to connect with you over there. We're also on Instagram at Trienne Top, and you can find us on TikTok at Trienne Top. We'll talk to you soon.